Commissioner, first the Deputy Minister of Police, Poli Boshielo, and thanks very much for coming, and acknowledge the National Commissioner, General Masimula, amongst ourselves here, and the two DNCs, Mosikidi and Sbia, and thank you very much for your presence, and the Provincial Commissioner who is with us here for Gauteng. We thank you very much. Presence of Major General Makwela from DPCI and the crime statistics person here, General Skukune. Let me also go on to acknowledge some of police officers sitting there with you, and finally yourselves. We are grateful that you are here this morning. We take this opportunity to extend our greetings to all South Africans this morning. We are gathered here to report on crime statistics for the third quarter, 2024-2025 financial year, covering the period of the 1st of October up to the 31st of December last year. This is a fulfillment of an important constitutional mandate as per the principles that govern public administration, accountability, and transparency. Section 12 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996, guarantees every person the right to freedom, to security, and this includes the right to be free from all forms of violence, whether from public or private source. To this end, Section 205 of the Constitution of the Republic mandates the South African Police Service to prevent, to combat, and investigate crime and maintain public order, protect and secure inhabitants of our nation and their property, and to uphold and enforce the law. This is a constitutional provision that mandates South African police, or within which South African police do their work. There are 4 provinces that are our albatross when it comes to policing and crime fighting, namely Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, and Western Cape. They pose quite a challenge. They dominate criminality in the country. And these provinces coincide with where our metros are in the whole country, and also with they coincide with the density of our population. And therefore, they are our focus. And we're going to continue this year focusing on them in particular. And we are and have positioned ourselves accordingly in terms of how we're policing South Africa. Because it's clear to us that we have to do so, as statistics will show. The statistics that we are presenting today will show a significant shift in our national crime landscape. What is encouraging on our part is that we are observing an overall decrease in several categories of crime. When compared to the same period in the previous year, 1 October 2023 to 31 December 2023. For instance, a 9.8% decrease in murder cases, a 3.3 reduction in rape cases, a 3.2 drop in attempted sexual offenses, a notable decline in carjackings and robberies of both residential and non-residential. And again, the report of South African Police that will be delivered here will give details on this matter. We have also registered a 4.5 reduction in stock theft, which is a welcome relief to farmers, communities, and agricultural sector as a whole. This positive shift highlights the importance of continued collaboration between law enforcement, local leaders, and communities to safeguard this vital industry. We extend our solidarity with rural communities in this regard, because we know what it means to them when you lose your livestock. Although the percentage appears to be relatively small, we note the outcry of the communities that farm livestock, particularly in the Eastern Cape, northwestern parts of KZN, and the eastern parts of the Free State. We are therefore planning to have a meeting or a gathering that will combine the three provinces with the affected parts of those provinces very soon. We must, however, also acknowledge the areas that require urgent attention. We've seen an increase in cases of assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm and malicious damage to property. These crimes continue to disrupt communities and demand reinforced response from law enforcement, and will do accordingly. For the third quarter, all provinces recorded a decrease in murder cases, making a significant milestone in our national crime reduction efforts. However, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal remain the highest contributors to the overall national murder figures, accounting for 25.0%, 21.4% respectively, followed by the Eastern Cape at 18.9% and Western Cape at 17.4%. The Western Cape continues to record the highest number of gang-related murders, coming up with 263 murders in the third quarter alone. And this is unacceptable, and it must change, and we will ensure that it does change. A large number of these murders collectively, amounting to a figure of 135 murders, occurred in Bishop Levis, in Mitchell's Plain, in Klein Flay, in Delft and Elsies River. These are Cape Town's own murder makers in the main in terms of our observations. The issue of gang violence or gang-related violence requires a rethink and approach, because this is not only a historical matter, but also it is also repetitive in nature. There is no point in us discussing one and the same thing with no change. We are dedicating the 27th of February, that is next week, the whole day, to discuss, among others, this particular issue. We will be looking, amongst others, policing review with regard to what we may refer to as high murder zones in the Republic, with a view to changing the situation this time around and once and for all, by taking concrete steps towards realization of peace and order in those areas. And in this regard, partnerships with communities and other partners will be a critical element in the rethink in terms of the approach. We want communities to be active. We want communities to speak in one voice and want communities to be united and take a stand on criminality in their own communities, minding that criminals come from communities, and once they have committed crimes, they also go back to the communities and hide there. And therefore it is logical that we should actively work together so that communities don't just become complainants but are not active together with police. We regard that as our work, but they also have a part to play, and that is important. A combination of interventions indicates that there are much more effective methods of fighting crime and criminals. Several individuals have been dealt with in a number of areas in the Eastern Cape recently, and KwaZulu-Natal, following a series of taxi violence and extortion-related matters. I do want to state that in South Africa, no one must regard themselves as untouchables while continuing with criminality. If there are such people out there as we speak, we are saying it is not going to be like that tomorrow. I must also warn very strongly against those who continue to target police in their criminal activities. The incident that recently took place, or yesterday, took place in the Eastern Cape in Butterworth, is a case in point where criminals made an attempt to kill police or to shoot at police. And we want to take this opportunity and commend police under General Masimula for taking a decisive stand as of yesterday to protect themselves and also to show their dedication and make sure that whoever takes aim against police will be dealt with decisively. Now, we will continue to sharpen South African police service on different intervention methods and aim at combating crime where it rears its ugly head in whatever form. While we register an overall reduction in contact crimes against women, we are deeply concerned by the increase in attempted murder cases against children aged 0 to 17. This is an alarming development that calls for concerted effort to protect the most vulnerable members of our society. Additionally, rape cases have increased in KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga and the Free State, whereas other provinces have recorded decreases. This data serves as a stark reminder that gender-based violence remains a critical issue requiring intensified interventions. And those interventions will come from us. But as we say, we require that the whole of society, the whole of government, act in this regard, especially because of the nature of gender-based violence. We know the concern of the public about extortions, about kidnappings and drugs. All of these matters will receive our attention on the date that we have indicated, the 27th of this month, where we'll have intensive discussions on what new ways and intensified ways to deal with this. But we note on kidnapping side that most of them are now said to be orchestrated in places including prisons. The recent one that we've dealt with, that is kidnappings, that took place in Nelson Mandela Bay, there are indications that it was orchestrated from St. Albans prison. And there are surely other prisons that are behaving in a similar way elsewhere in the country. And that includes, we must say, to our disappointment, that even the mastermind who orchestrated the murders of 18 people in Lusikisiki was recently found with cell phones again, having been removed from where he was or where he had been before the Lusikisiki to where he is now, but still, he still has access to cell phones. What he's doing with those cell phones, we don't know until those things happen. And we want to appeal to our colleagues in correctional services to once more take decisive action on these matters, because it's a burden and an embarrassment to the whole society. It's a burden on us as police, but it's also an embarrassment to the whole country. And it is time they actually stand up to put a stop on accessing cell phones to prisoners when they are in prison. But these reductions therefore indicate that strategies and interventions we've implemented in the past yield results. Our Safer Festive Season initiative, launched in October 2024, has played a significant role in recorded crime reductions. Throughout heightened police visibility during the festive season, our strategic operations, fewer crimes were reported and recorded during this period. We have reported this to the Portfolio Committee recently, and we all agreed that indeed this visibility during that period played a critical role in crime reduction in our country overall, especially in that period. And a key element in our crime fighting strategy has been Project 10,000, aimed at bolstering police personnel. On the 5th of February this year, we welcomed 5,500 new recruits at various subs academies where they were reporting to for the first time for training. These individuals will undergo rigorous training, and upon completion will reinforce our crime-fighting efforts as constables. And we need to continue to do so in whatever way we can, resources allowing. And this initiative not only enhances policing capacity, but also contributes to job creation, crucial aspect in addressing social determinants of crime. There are a number of crimes that are detected as a result of proactive police action through the various operations carried out by SAPS, and the statistics indicate that there has been an increase in cases of illegal possession of firearms and ammunition. Just yesterday, 16,049 firearms were destroyed in accordance with Section 149 of the Firearms Control Act. They were destroyed after they got collected through various activities of police officers fighting the proliferation of illegal firearms in our country. We will continue to carry out these measures aimed at ensuring the illegal weapons are seized and destroyed. And this is going to happen every 6 months. And we're going to strengthen our efforts to fight against illegal weapons. And we are open to contributions by organizations and by communities and individuals in this effort. While progress has been made, we recognize that crime remains a major concern. Among our key challenges is the backlog of outstanding dockets, and this issue has now been projectized and costed, and we're actively securing funding to expedite investigations and prosecution so that we can ease the burden on the side of detectives. To effectively combat crime, we identified a number of key enablers which we will need to strengthen, and they include the improved technology use in SAPS, crime intelligence strengthening, capacitating and improving efficiency of our detective, or efficiency in our detective services, forensic services, improve general environment under which police officers work. That is the internal SAPS environment. Commercial crimes remain a challenge, particularly fraud and corruption. We are confident that the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigations, DPCI, will continue to intensify efforts to combat these offenses and hold perpetrators accountable. Fighting crime is not a task for law enforcement alone. It requires the active participation of communities, the private sector, various stakeholders. We're enhancing our collaboration with the private sector and civil society and strengthen crime prevention measures and improve public safety. We appeal to communities to work hand in hand with law enforcement. Police need assistance. They need support. They need active support from all of us. Crime thrives in silence, and we urge all South Africans to report criminal activities and cooperate with police. And we're happy that we're getting indications that individual members of communities out there are beginning to trust police, indicating to them as individuals and reporting crime to them and to us as individuals. We welcome this gesture and want to encourage it. We welcome the arrest of one of the suspects in Senzo, a case which is topical these days, and police will continue to investigate this matter, and we're confident that there will be necessary breakthroughs as we move on. And in conclusion, we recently concluded a 3-day employee health and wellness workshop where we actively engaged a number of issues relating to well-being of our members. We are interrogating the recommendations by various commissions, and we will implement those into either legislation or policy or practice. And the workshop was quite a success in terms of invigorating or inspiring police from inside via a number of initiatives inside to ensure that they work with high spirits. In April, as we said before, we'll be hosting a national policing summit as we work towards adopting a proactive, holistic approach to law enforcement, addressing systemic challenges that hinder effectiveness of policing in South Africa. As the Ministry of Police, we remain resolute in our commitment to upholding the constitutional promises of safety and security for all. These crime statistics reflect progress, but they also highlight areas requiring our urgent intervention. We assure South Africans that we are hard at work to address these challenges and will not relent in our efforts to build a safer and more secure nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now call upon General Tulares Kukuni to present the crime statistics.
Good morning, Honorable Minister of Police, the GM, Mebushielo, the National Commissioner of the South African Police Service, General Masemola, the two Deputy National Commissioners and the Provincial Commissioner of Gauteng Province, and also the acting representative from the DPCI, General Makwela. Members of the media, allow me to say all protocol observed. Today we gather here to give feedback in terms of the quarterly crime statistics, as it has been a cabinet decision that crime statistics will henceforth be presented on a quarterly basis since 2016. We have kept that mandate, and we are continuing with that mandate of reporting and disseminating the quarterly crime statistics on a quarterly basis. As is the norm, after this presentation, the full presentation will be loaded on the South African Police Service website, and at the end of this presentation there's a QR code which you can then scan to be able to have access to the whole presentation. Now, with that being said, we normally start with the summary table of the crimes that had been committed and reported to the South African Police Service, covering the period from the 1st of October up to the 31st of December of the current financial year, that is 2024. The summary tables indicate that we have recorded a reduction in terms of the murders for the current quarter. That is a reduction of 757 when compared to the previous comparable period. And one thing that I would also like to mention is that this is the highest decrease in terms of the murders since the lifting of the lockdown restriction across all the quarters. We have managed to reduce the murders by 757, sexual offenses decreased by 311, attempted murders reduced by 261, and then we also had a reduction in terms of common robbery of 796, robbery with aggravating circumstances, the reduction was 5,301, and the sum total of the contact crimes or crimes against the person we have managed to reduce by 381. Unfortunately, of these 7 crimes that make up the contact crimes, we recorded increases in only 2 of the 7. That is your assault GBH, an increase of 824, and also common assault, an increase of 3,521. And we need to also mention that in some instances, these increases that we see are also as a result of counter charges, whereby people, when they are having good time at places where alcohol is being sold, they then fight, then one will go to the police and record a crime, and the other one who was also beaten will also go and record a crime. So we also have an issue in terms of the double registration of one incident resulting in 2 counts of a particular crime. Then moving on to the breakdown of the sexual offenses, we have already indicated that the total sexual offenses decreased by 311, and the breakdown of that sexual offenses, the reductions are led by the crime of rape, where we had recorded the reduction of 408. Then we had an increase in terms of sexual assault, 74 counts more. Attempted sexual offenses, a decrease of 25 counts. Then contact sexual offenses, we have recorded an increase of 48 counts. Then the subcategories of robbery with aggravating circumstances, leading with the 3 crimes that attempt the trio crimes led by carjacking, we recorded a decrease of 1,166. Robbery at residential premises, we recorded a reduction of 101. Robbery at non-residential premises, a decrease of 1,025. And the sum total of these three crimes, as I've indicated, they are called trio crimes. We have recorded a reduction of 2,296. Then further going down the robbery with aggravating circumstances category, we have recorded a reduction in terms of robberies of cash in transit, that is 17 counts less compared to the previous comparable period, where in the previous comparable period we had 46 counts. Currently we have recorded 29 counts, and that led to a reduction of 17 counts. We had the same number of bank robberies as in the previous comparable period, that is 2 in each, and hence the count difference is 0. Then for truck hijacking, from 408 in the previous comparable period to 413 in the current period, we had the reduction of 67. Then on the next slide, we take into consideration the population of the country, and we do what is called per capita for the crimes. This is only done for crimes where the desired or the victim is a person. And this it also helps in terms of making sure that when you are comparing provinces, you are comparing apples with apples, because you take into consideration the total population of the respective provinces to be in a position to do the per capita rather than only relying on the raw numbers. For the murders, we had 11 per 100,000, the rapes 19 per 100,000, attempted murders 12 per 100,000, assault GBH 87 per 100,000, common assault 90 per 100,000, and common robbery it's 20 per 100,000. Then continuing with the table of the summary, we had recorded an increase in one of the two crimes that make up contact-related crimes, that is malicious damage to property, an increase of 391. However, we have recorded a reduction in terms of the arson, that is 89 counts less, and the total of the contact-related crime, we have observed an increase of 302. For the 5 crimes that make up property-related crimes, we have recorded a clean sweep of reduction across all the 5 crimes, starting with the burglary at non-residential premises, a reduction of 2,914, burglary at residential premises, a reduction of 4,997, another reduction for theft of motor vehicle and motorcycle, 1,748, another reduction for theft out of or from motor vehicle, 2,879, and also stock theft, as the Minister has indicated, we have recorded a reduction of 325, and the sum total for the category of property-related crimes, the whole reduction is 12,683. That is, previously we had 95,194 counts. Currently, we are sitting at 82,331, leading to a percentage reduction of 13.5. Then moving on to other serious crimes, starting with the all theft not mentioned elsewhere, we had recorded a reduction of 5,242. We, however, had an increase in commercial crime of 2,971, and shoplifting, we also managed to reduce that by 3,675 counts, and the total of the other serious crimes, the reduction is 3,675, and the other serious crimes is 5,946, and the total reduction for all the 17 community reported crimes is 21,588. Then for the last category, which is crime detected as a result of police action, we recorded the reduction in terms of illegal possession of firearms. Then we also recovered more of the drug-related crimes, 5,772. Then we also managed to increase in terms of driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and sexual offenses increased by 918. Then the sum total of crime detected as a result of police action increased by 8,532. The difference between these 17 community reported crimes and the crime detected as a result of police action is that the desired trajectory of change for the 17 community reported crimes is a reduction. However, for the crime detected as a result of police action, the desired trajectory of change is to make sure that we remove more of the guns from the wrong hands, and also make sure that we keep those that are driving under the influence of liquor safe and out of our roads. So it is desirable that on a quarterly basis we should achieve more and more of this, and the more they increase, the better for the community at large. Then we now move on to the breakdown in terms of the month-on-month that make up the quarter, and also take into consideration the provincial comparison. On this slide, we observe that we have recorded decreases across all the 3 months that make up the current quarter. That is a reduction of 11,860 in October, 8,933 in November, and in December, a reduction of 795. And across all the 9 provinces, only 1 province had recorded an increase when taking into consideration the 17 community reported crimes, and that is your KZN, which recorded 451. The Minister has already indicated the 4 provinces that are contributing to these numbers of the 17 community reported crimes, and the highest contributors are the provinces of Gauteng, which contribute 26.5%. The second highest is the province of Western Cape with 18, that is Gauteng is 26.5. Then we had Western Cape with 18.3%, KwaZulu-Natal 16.9%, and then the Eastern Cape with 10.2%. For the top stations, for the 17 community reported crimes, I will only mention the top 5, and what we have observed is that the top 5 stations are from the 2 provinces, that is 3 stations in the Western Cape and 2 stations in the KZN. Then of these top 5 stations, only one of the top 5 have recorded an increase. That is your Chatsworth, which recorded an increase of 158, and the other stations in the top 5 have recorded reductions, starting with Cape Town Central, a reduction of 562 at number 1, Durban Central, a reduction of 326 at number 2, 223 in terms of Mitchell's Plain reduction, and number 5 is Mfuleni with a reduction of 147. Then in terms of the contact crimes, the provinces which have recorded increases is the province of KwaZulu-Natal, which recorded the highest increase, that is 1,860. Then the province which recorded the second highest increase was Free State with 131. Number 3 is Northern Cape with 83 counts, and Limpopo at number 4 with 35 counts. That is when one takes into consideration only the 7 crimes that make up what is called contact crimes. Then we also look at the top stations in terms of the contact crimes. For the top 5, we have 3 provinces that are represented in the top 5 stations. 2 are in the Western Cape, 2 in Gauteng, and 1 in KwaZulu-Natal. Those that are in the Western Cape, it's number 1, Mfuleni at number 1, and Delft at number 3. The stations that are in the province of the Western Cape is Tembisa at number 2, and then Temba at number 5. Then we also had 1 station at number 4, which is Inanda. And of these top 5 stations, only 2, that is number 1 and number 5, Mfuleni recorded a reduction of 87, and then we have Temba recording a reduction of 7, and the other from 2 to 5 recorded various increases. Then I would prefer that I skip this slide because I would have focused only on the matters, but there's a slide that gives a breakdown in terms of the causative factors taking into consideration the provincial comparisons. So we will come back where we go into the details of the causative factors per province. Then looking at the places where the matters are occurring, we took from the same sample of 6,651 and we tried to look into what are the places of occurrence of these murders. But on the slide, we have your murder, attempted murder, and assault GBH, but we will focus only on the causative factors that led to the murders. It was indicated that in 3,821, these murders happened in public places, for instance, your street, recreational centers, and parking areas. The second highest place of occurrence for the murder was at the residences of the perpetrator or the victims, including residences known by the victim or perpetrators. That would include places where it's a family house, friends, or neighbor's house. Then the third highest contributor is at liquor outlets, that is your shebeens, taverns, etc., where 244 of the murders have taken place at such facilities. We also had 89 of the murders having taken place at business premises, 69 of the murders taking place at spaza shops, and we unfortunately also have 11 of the murders that have taken place at educational institutions. That is your schools, universities, and daycares, and the rest of the places of occurrence can be read from the table. Then moving on to the crimes against women and children. For the women, we have recorded decreases across the 3 crimes that we are reporting on. That is, we have recorded the reduction of 174 in terms of the murders of women, attempted murders, a reduction of 169, and then assault GBH, a reduction of 2,451. For the children, the only crime between the 3 that has increased was the attempted murders, which increased by 54, and then the reductions were observed in terms of murders, a reduction of 12, and assault GBH, a reduction of 117. The Minister has already indicated that we have recorded decreases across all the provinces, and we also have recorded decreases across all the 3 months that make up the current quarter. Then he has also touched on the highest contributing provinces in terms of the murder, so I will not go into the details of that. Then when we indicated that we also take into consideration the population when we do the murders, because the raw numbers might give a false conclusion. So when you bring into consideration the population per crime, then you can then be in a position to determine the murder per capita for the respective provinces. Taking that into consideration and using the mid-year population estimates from the 2021 series, the province with the highest per capita murder is the Eastern Cape with 20 per 100,000. The second highest is the Western Cape with 16 per 100,000. KwaZulu-Natal, it's number 3 with 13 per 100,000. Gauteng, 10 per 100,000. And the province with the lowest per capita murder is the province of Limpopo with 3 per 100,000. Then this is just a graphical representation of the slide that we have already talked to. And in this instance, we also bring the total number of the population for the respective provinces for you to be able to compute the numbers for yourself. Then the top stations in terms of the murders, the top 5 is made up of 3 provinces from the Western Cape. Number 1 is Mfuleni with a reduction of 7. Number 2 is Delft with an increase of 4. Number 3 is Kraaifontein with an increase of 16. And those that are in Gauteng, we have 1 in Gauteng, that is your Orange Farm, which is at number 3 with an increase of 33. And we also have 1 station from KZN at number 5 with a reduction of 28. Those are the top 5 stations in terms of the murders. We indicated that we will skip the causative factors for the murder because we have a provincial breakdown in terms of these particular numbers. Then we drew from a sample of 6,651 and tried to establish what are the causative factors across the different provinces. I will only touch on a few of these. Then when you take into consideration provinces that have indicated arguments as a causative factor for the murder, which was the highest, by the way, across all the causative factors of 1,453, the province which had the highest causative factor attributable to arguments was the Eastern Cape with 438. The second highest province was KwaZulu-Natal with 206. The Western Cape at number 3 with 287. There was also the second highest contributor for the provincial causative factors, which was robberies, which that means that the murder happened as a result of a robbery. It was indicated that 405 of these murders happened as a result of a robbery, and the province that indicated most of the causative factor as a robbery was the Western Cape with 119, and also Gauteng at number 2 with 118. The minister indicated that we have a problem of gang-related murders in the Western Cape. We have recorded 294 murders across all the provinces, and the highest the highest contributory factor attributed to gang-related issues was the Western Cape with 263 of the murders attributable to gang-related issues. And the stations which recorded the highest in terms of the gang-related murders was Bishop Lavis with 35, Michel's Plain at number 2 with 33, and Klein Flay at number 3 with 23. Then we also had 57 taxi-related murders. Of these 57, the highest province was Gauteng with 28 of the murders, and the second highest was the Western Cape with 15. Then we also had law enforcement, where the law enforcement and security guards were killed in the line of duty. It was in 26 of these instances. This excludes the murders of police officers. And when one takes into consideration law enforcement or police officers that are killed in the line of duty, that is 5. And the total number of law enforcement personnel that was killed in the line of duty in the current quarter, it brings the number to 31. Then if you add the 8 of the law enforcement officers that were killed off duty, it brings the total number to 39. Then on the next slide, I think we have already touched on the places of occurrence. We will skip that. Then we also need to, I will just talk on the first one, whereby we had more or multiple murders in one incident. We had an incident that happened at the Orange Farms, whereby 7 people were killed, and the very same incident, there was also charges of 4 attempted murders. How this unfolded, it was lobola negotiations. The people who were negotiating for the lobola, I think they ran out of beers. One person from the negotiating team went to a tavern and tried to buy additional alcohol, and the tavern owner refused because it was past operating hours. He slapped the tavern owner and went back to the lobola negotiations. The tavern owner got aggrieved, took his firearm, went to that house, killed 7 members, and also resulted in 4 attempted murders. So this honestly brings into context the social crime and the manner in which we are not in a position to resolve conflict without resorting to violence. The others, I think one can read from this, and they will also be made available on the SAPS website. Then we moved on to looking at what is the weapon of choice in the commission of these murders. We have seen that from this same sample size of 6,651, 2,886 of the murders were committed with a firearm. And I've always indicated that this does not mean that it is a one-to-one relationship. It does not mean that 2,886 of these murders were committed with 2,886 firearms. We have seen that one firearm is capable of killing 7 people and resulting in 4 attempted murders. So this simply indicates the weapon that was used, not necessarily the count of the weapons that were used. 849 of the murders committed with firearm was reported in the province of Gauteng. The second highest was KwaZulu-Natal with 670, and these firearms, especially in the KZN, include those that are termed self-made firearms. Then we also have the third highest weapon of choice was in the Western Cape with 634 murders, and the Eastern Cape at number 4 with 474. For knives, it was indicated that 1,185 murders were committed with knives, and the highest of these knife murders happened in the Eastern Cape with 258, KwaZulu-Natal at number 2 with 240 of the murders attributable to knives, and then the Western Cape at number 3 with 228. The rest can then be read from there. We've indicated that there were 5 police officers that were killed in the line of duty, adding to the 26, whereby we have seen that law enforcement and security officers that were killed in the line of duty, resulting in 31. And then when you add the 8 police officers that were killed off duty, that brings the total to 39 of the law enforcement people that were killed in the line of duty. Then the only month within the 3 that we have recorded an increase was the month of December, where we recorded 3 more murders when compared to the previous comparable period. Then next we move on to the attacks on rural communities. I will only talk to the contact crimes from these particular attacks on rural communities. We have recorded a reduction in terms of murders of 8, sexual offense, a reduction of 1, attempted murder, a reduction of 14, a reduction of 1 for common assault, a reduction of 3 for common robbery, an increase of 1 for common robbery, and 31 for robbery with aggravating circumstances, and the total of the contact crimes we have recorded a reduction of 57. Then the murders of the farming community, we have seen in the previous slide that we had recorded 12 murders of the farming community. Now we go into the details of who are these people that were killed in the farming community. 5 of the murders were farm dwellers, and we also had 4 of the people that were killed. They were employees of the farm, on the farm, and we had only 1 farmer that was killed in the current quarter. Then one person that was killed was a security on the farm, and it was also not specified in one incident. Then that is the total of the 12 murders that we have observed in the farming community. Then moving on to the rapes, we have recorded the only increase was in the month of December, where we had 9 counts more. Then in terms of the provinces that had recorded increases was KwaZulu-Natal with the highest increase in terms of the rape of 143. The second highest was in Mpumalanga with 10 counts more, and the Free State at number 3 with 3 counts more. All the other provinces recorded decreases in terms of the rape. Then, as in the per capita for the rapes, the province with the highest rapes was the province of the Eastern Cape. Eastern Cape, as you might have noticed, it was also the highest per capita in terms of the murder. It is also the highest per capita in terms of the rape. And for the rapes, it's 29 per 100,000. Free State was 28 per 100,000. Northern Cape, 24 per 100,000. And the Northwest was 20 per 100,000. And in contrast to the murder, where Limpopo was the province with the lowest per capita murder, this time for the rape, the province with the lowest per capita rape is the province of Gauteng, which has 14 per 100,000. That is the graphical representation. I will skip that and go into the top 5 stations for the rape. These are made up of 2 stations in KwaZulu-Natal, 2 in the Eastern Cape, and 1 in Limpopo. Those that are in the KwaZulu-Natal is Inanda with an increase of 28, Umlazi with an increase of 15, Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape with an increase of 6, then Mthatha at number 4 with a reduction of 6, and Thohoyandou in Limpopo with a reduction of 5. The first column on this table indicates that particular stations position when you take into consideration the whole 1,163 stations in the country. And the second column indicates the position of that particular station when one only considered the province from which that station is from. Then we drew a sample of 9,057 for the rape counts that had been reported to the police. That is a sample of 76% to try and determine where are the places of occurrence of these rapes. We have observed that it was indicated that the residence of the perpetrator or the victim where the rape occurred attributed to 63% of all the rapes that had been reported to the South African Police Service. Then the second highest contributing place for the rapes was in public places, which contributed 21%, which is a distant from the 63 where it was indicated that these rapes happened at the residences of the perpetrator. Then the rest can then be read from that particular table. Then we also looked at the use and abuse of alcohol in the commission of the 4 crimes, that is murder, attempted murder, rape, and assault GBH. It was indicated that alcohol was used in the commission of 10,249 counts, and drugs were involved in 274 counts. Of these contribution for the rapes, we had the use of alcohol was used prior to the commission of the rape in 2017 of these rapes, and 139 of these rapes, they involved drugs. For the murders is 307, and for the drugs, for the alcohol is 307, for drugs is 13. And we have also indicated that there were 244 of the murders that had taken place at the place where alcohol is being sold. Then 347 attempted murders happened at these facilities, 4,550 assault GBH happened in these facilities, and 100 people were raped where alcohol is being sold. Then going down to the rape and murders at the educational premises, we had 99 rapes that have taken place at the educational facilities. Of these 99, 74 happened in schools, 10 happened at special schools, 9 of these rapes happened at daycare or aftercare centers, and 6 were at tertiary institutions. We also had 11 murders that had taken place in the space of educational premises, and 8 of these murders happened at schools, and 3 happened at tertiary institutions. Then we then look into who were the victim and who were the perpetrators of these murders that happened at educational premises. It's a 3-way table where the first column indicates the premises, the second column indicates the perpetrator, and the third column indicates the victim. We see that there were 2 learners that killed 2 learners at schools, and we also had an incident where the perpetrators were not specified, where it resulted in 6 community patrollers that were killed. I think this was in the Eastern Cape region. Then we also had a tertiary institution where we indicated that there were 2 murders where the perpetrators were unknown. However, the victim was a security and the other victim was unspecified. In one tertiary institution murder, the perpetrator was the boyfriend and the victim was an LN. Then the rapes, we had 99 of these rapes. 74 have taken place at schools, and we have 10 at special schools, 9 at daycare centers. And I will only talk to one figure from the schools. It's the same table. Educational premises gives the place where the rape occurred and the perpetrators. We had 53 learners who have committed rapes, and the victims were also learners. That is 53 of these 99 rapes. The perpetrators were learners, and also the victims were learners. Then, as a proxy for domestic violence, we look at domestic violence related incidents. That is, we specifically look at incidents whereby there is some kind of a domestic relationship between the perpetrator and the victim. Then we look across various crimes. Touching only on the murders and rape, we had 315 murders that were as a result of domestic violence, where the perpetrator and the victim had some kind of a relationship. And the province with the highest domestic related murders was KwaZulu-Natal with 88. The second highest was Eastern Cape with 54, Gauteng at number 3 with 40, and the Western Cape at number 4 with 39. We also had 1,080 rapes that were as a result of domestic violence. And the highest in terms of these was the province of KwaZulu-Natal again with 241. And then the second was Gauteng with 181, and Western Cape number 3 at 172. And the victims of these 1,080 rapes, 1,020 were female and 60 were male. Then for the murders, for the 315, the victims were 164 were female and the male was 151. Then we move on to the subcategories of robbery with aggravating circumstances. I will try to move faster now. We have recorded decreases across all the 9 provinces for carjacking and across all the 3 months that make up the court. Then in terms of the stations, the top 5 are made up of Ivory Coast, Lingele 2 West, KwaZakele, Delft, and Orange Farm. Those are the top 5 stations in terms of carjacking. Then the types of cars that are frequently hijacked, the leading is a sedan, a hatchback, or a coupe with 2,339. That is from a sample of 4,797. Then the second highest vehicle that is carjacked is a buggy or a panel van, 1,500 incidents. And we also had 10 industrial machines that were hijacked. That literally include your TLBs, graders, etc., or what is collectively known as your yellow machine. Then for robbery at residential premises, the only month where we recorded an increase was November 14, and then the reductions were in October and December of 84 and 31 respectively. Then of these, provincial distribution, the provinces which recorded increases was KwaZulu-Natal with 41, number 2 was Mpumalanga with 30, number 3 was Eastern Cape with 39, number 4 was Limpopo with 15 counts higher, and the Free State at number 5 with 6 counts higher. Then the top 5 stations for robbery at residential premises, they are led by Inanda at number 1 with an increase of 32, number 2 is Umlazi with an increase of 68. These are both in KwaZulu-Natal. Number 3 is Roodepoort with an increase of 16, Tembisa with an increase of 15, and Ivory Park with an increase of 54. So only 2 provinces contribute to the top 5 of robbery at residential premises. Non-residential premises, we have recorded decreases across all the 3 months and across all the provinces. Then the top 5 stations for robbery at non-residential are led by Rustenburg with an increase of 19, Johannesburg Central a reduction of 12, Tsakani in Gauteng with an increase of 23, Kempton Park at number 4 with an increase of 8, and Konke at number 5 with an increase of 3. Then cash in transit robberies, we recorded the decreases for the month of October 18, less, and November 1 less. December we however recorded an increase. And the provinces which recorded increases in terms of cash in transit robberies was KwaZulu-Natal with 10 counts. Number 2 is Gauteng with 8 counts, and then number 3 is the Eastern Cape with 4 counts. Then we also looked at the modus operandi in terms of the commission of this cash in transit. 22 of these cash in transit were committed while the armored vehicle was on the road, and the breakdown is indicated in the small square there. which indicates that the most of these happened in KwaZulu-Natal with 9 counts. Then we also had 7 of what are termed cross pavements robberies. And in 10 of these incidents, the method used to stop the armored vehicle was it was bumped and then bombed to gain access to the cash. In 12 incidents, it was shot at and then bombed to gain access to the cash. And this is just a breakdown of that. So moving on to truck hijacking, the only 3 provinces that recorded increases was KwaZulu-Natal, Northern Cape, and the Western Cape. And the month on which we recorded an increase was October, followed by 2 consecutive reductions in November and December of 43 and 28 respectively. Then truck hijacking, what can one mention from this is that most of these truck hijacking, in fact specifically 24 of these top 30 stations are in the province of Gauteng. Then we then drew another sample of 4,379 to look at incidents that might be ransom related, extortion or human trafficking. We observed that 238 of these were ransom related, and the majority of this was in the province of Gauteng with 148. Then 58 were extortion related, again Gauteng led with 33 counts, and 9 human trafficking incidents with Limpopo leading with 5, and then Gauteng with 3 and 1 in the Western Cape. And this gives a breakdown in terms of kidnapping that are ransom related. Then on the next slide, we look at the incidents which require the presence of the police. We call these core diversions because contrary to what these incidents are, in a normal society, they wouldn't require the presence of police. However, we know the communities that we stay in, then these include instances whereby the resources of the police are diverted to go and monitor football matches, and in some instances to escort examination papers, etc. We had 1,187 incidents which required the presence of police, and these were termed to be peaceful, and the bulk of these happened in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Then we also had 290 incidents which were termed to be unrest, and the bulk of this was in the province of Gauteng with 63. And this table basically gives a summary of the national side by side with the provinces, where one can at a glance see per crime how each province fared when compared to the national. Using MEDA as an example, we have already seen that we had 757 MEDAs, and it is color-coded green. It indicates a reduction. And then the provinces, again for MEDA, they are all color-coded green, which indicates that there was a reduction across all the provinces. And then the minister also talked about the issue of commercial crime, and as one can, just I don't have the highlighter there, but if you look for commercial crime, you can see that only one province across the 9 provinces have recorded a reduction in terms of commercial crime, and that was the Eastern Cape. All the other 8 provinces recorded increases. And this gives a summary of what we have indicated, whereby we try to look at per province how many of the 17 community reported crime did that particular province manage to decrease and increase. And these are for the stations, whereby we try to identify which station has the highest increases across the 17 community reported crimes and which ones recorded decreases. And as I've indicated when I started this presentation, there is a QR code that one can scan and the link that one can then follow to get the full presentation on the SAPS website. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the interactive session, or part of our session. I have been advised that the roving mic is unfortunately not working, so I am going to request that colleagues just raise their voice and be audible when they ask their questions. I am going to ask by show of hands if colleagues do have questions, and in the event that you do have a question, please just state your name, the media house that you represent, and as far as possible, please indicate which member of our panel your question is posed to. Just by a show of hands, do we have any questions? Okay, I see one hand. Okay, we can take the hand.
Good day, Veronica Mokaliga from Newsroom Africa. I think just a reflection in regards to what we've seen in these latest statistics. What has helped in regards to the number of decreases that we see in some of those serious and violent crimes? But I also just wanted a little bit of clarity in terms of the breakdown as well, perhaps maybe from you, General, in regards to the number of rapes that took place on educational premises. You mentioned that there was 9 at the nursery school or a daycare center. Is it possible just to get a breakdown of what that involved, and also just any information, of course, of what has happened, especially looking at schools, are there people in juvenile in regards to this, and of course any information in regards to what we know about the suspect that was, of course, arrested in the club matter here in Hatfield. You say that there is possibility of more arrests. What does it look like in terms of any witness protection for people who are coming out with any kind of information, or those that want to but could be afraid? Thank you.
Okay. We also have questions from colleagues from social media. I'll just read the questions. We've got one from Velani Luditi, News 24. Can the minister confirm that Nyanga Nyalara was one of the people killed in the shootout with police yesterday in Guwa? Can he also confirm that he was suspected to have killed a taxi boss in Kovimba recently? So that's the one question. The other question is from Alex Mitchley. It says, despite the decrease in murder, the statistics still reveal that on average, 75 people are murdered in South Africa every day during that period. Minister, can you really say that police's strategies are effective or working? And then the last question, what was the murder detection rate for the third quarter? In other words, how many suspects were identified and arrested for these murders? Those are the questions. Oh, we seem to have more hands. Okay, we can take Bule.
Minister, Bule Jones from DNCA. I just wanted to find out in terms of the number of cases that were not reported. I remember, Minister, that you have a specific figure of how many cases were not reported. Or are you having a challenge, sorry, are you having a challenge in terms of cases that are not reported?
Cases not reported.
Yeah, people not coming forward to report crime.
Okay.
That's number one. And then number two, I just want to get more about the program that took place last week in terms of the wellness of police. The focus at your 2-day workshop. Are officers becoming more and more overwhelmed by the realities of day-to-day jobs? Is this program meant to rehabilitate their mental well-being as well? Are you willing in terms of that program?
Can we get a response to the questions posed? And then we'll come to Minister.
Oops. I think the question with regard to, was it the rapes or the murders in educational facilities? The rapes. I think we tried to drill down to try and identify who were the perpetrators and who were the victims in all the incidents. And then for those that happened at daycare centers, we have seen that 2 of the incidents were committed by acquaintances and the victims were learners. 1 was the employee at the daycare center and the victim was a learner. 2 of these rapes were perpetrated by strangers and the victims were learners in 2 incidents. 1, it was a teacher or a principal at the daycare center, and in 1 incident it was unknown. For those that happened at school, I only talked about the 53 rapes whereby the perpetrators were both learners and the victim were also learners. We also had 2 incidents whereby the perpetrators was an acquaintance and the victim was a learner. Then we also had incidents whereby 6 of the perpetrators were not mentioned and the victims were learners. Then special needs school, the perpetrators were learners in 8 incidents and the victims were also learners. Those that happened at tertiary institutions, we had 2 incidents where the perpetrator was a boyfriend and the victim was a student. I guess that is the breakdown that you were looking for. But then if it's not, this whole presentation, I think by now, is already on the SAPS website, then one can then be in a position to get the numbers from there. Thank you.
Thanks and morning, Minister, Deputy Minister, DNCs and members of the media. On the question of witness protection for the victims of the Senzo Club, at this stage we haven't yet got any of those victims that would want to go into witness protection, but those that will be requesting, we will provide. The IO will be providing that. Up to so far, as you heard, there is only 1 person, 1 suspect arrested, and we are still looking for others who will be making arrests in due course. On the question of whether a guy called Yanga Edri Nyalara, or commonly called Bara, whether he was part of those that were involved with the shootout with the police yesterday, the answer is yes, is correct. What happened there, police were pushed off the road yesterday, and they tried to stop those cars. And as a result, these 3 vehicles shot at police. Then a shootout ensued, and as a result, 7 people were declared dead at the end of the day. Yes, it was discovered that one of those is the one called Bara. And also there was a report earlier on the same day on the same route where one of the traditional leaders, which we won't give his name, he was also pushed off the road by the same group of cars that also pushed our police. Number of arrests for murder for the 3 months, both murder and attempted murder. The arrests, we count about 4,501 arrests. But take note that those arrests does not necessarily mean they are for murders that were committed in the 3 months. Does not mean that. It means that is people that were arrested for murder in the 3 months. A murder might have happened April or last year, but the arrest was only made during that specific month. So you can't really take the arrest vis-a-vis the murder committed during that specific quarter. I think, unless there is something I forget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General, and thank you very much, National Commissioner. The first question that I'll respond to, 75 people per day, is something that all of us work out, and depending on what we'll end up with, the figure gives you a different message all the time, depending on how you play with the stats. We've just given the stats in terms of the murder rate. We didn't turn that into how many people get murdered per day. But it is possible to juggle numbers and end up like that. But in reality, that's what you will do, and that's what you get results. That's the results you will get. But it doesn't mean that that is what actually happens. 75 people dying per day. If you juggle numbers and you divide it, so you get that 75. But in reality, it's not necessarily like that. That doesn't mean that we are denying that calculation. But I'm just saying that the numbers give different messages as you play around with matter, with those issues. If you turn it into minutes, for instance, or hours, it will become worse and worse, depending, as I say, how you play it. So it becomes 75 if you do it that way per day. So what are we saying about this? We're not in denial that the murder rate is very, very concerning. As a matter of fact, in November last year, we had a meeting with between Ministry, National Commissioner, Deputy National Commissioners, and Provincial Commissioners. And where we, not that we were differing in any manner, but we wanted absolute consensus that murder as matter in South Africa is our major concern. And that over and above what we are doing up to then, we need to strengthen. We need to double our effort. We need to come up with innovative methods of cutting down on this particular crime. It's still the case, and it will be still the case when we discuss this poll in particular on the 27th of this month. One of the things we'll focus on is how do we reduce. We know murder and weapons, that is firearms, especially illegal firearms, go hand in hand. And close to that, it's drugs and all of these other matters, including alcohol and all of that. But murder and firearms, that is the critical pair in South Africa that we are wanting to face head on and look in the eye in this particular year. In a way, at the back of my mind, when they talk about some of the criminals that are spoken about after Police Act, you allow your mind to run and you say, had the police not acted in a particular way against a particular individual who gets said to be untouchable, most feared, and so on, how many murders would he have committed in 2 weeks after? 3 weeks after, and so on. And therefore, that, as ugly as it may be, because we can't celebrate anybody's murder, even the worst criminal. But what do you say? You say, had that criminal continued to live, what would have happened? And you look at both sides. That's what I wanted to say. We feel very strong about that 75, that it's a major challenge to us. Much as we are making progress and there is decline, which is real in numbers, but we still remain concerned, and the fight against criminality goes on, and that includes against murders and firearms. The second question I want to respond to is cases not reported. Cases not reported are cases not reported. We can't calculate them. We can't talk about them until we discover that there's a case that happened or there's something that has not been brought to police attention. But I think those cases would be very, minimal if they are. Recently, there was a case of a woman who was murdered in a sugarcane farm somewhere in KZN. She remained alone working in a sugarcane land, and she continued working. And then she was murdered and discovered after a couple of days after the body had deteriorated. But police were able to find that body in sugarcane after they got information and they got worried about that person missing for a couple of days. And the last place having been where she had been seen being the sugarcane land where she was working. Now, so there may be a case that has gone unreported. And there's a difference between a case that has been unreported and a case where police have not found the culprit. So most cases, there would be very little on numbers of cases that have not been reported. And those would have been reported, they would be investigated and culprits would be found in most cases. And therefore, there isn't much to say or cases not reported. Our winning, I've just reported that we've had a workshop for 3 days. Now, it is too early to tell, and minding that in the whole of the month of March, as we said at the outcome of the workshop, we're going to be analyzing all the recommendations and looking at ways and means of implementing those recommendations. And by the way, those recommendations were very good. And people who were there worked very hard to come up with things that are practical in relation to current problems that are being experienced inside the SAPS, that they think if they are resolved or if they could be resolved, they will lift the morale of police. And we did say that when the morale of police is down, the morale of management and ministry is also down. There's no way an employer can have high morale when the employee is down. It goes hand in hand. And so we will see once we start implementation of these recommendations in April after the summit, whether we ourselves as a leadership of SAPS, we are experiencing and feeling our morale lifted, and we will tell that probably that of the employees and the workforce of SAPS is uplifted. But that is what we are aiming at, uplifting the morale of people in subs or officers inside the house, and wanted we are doing everything, and as I say, there were very good recommendations, those. So our winning, we are hoping to be winning, and we are getting there. Last one is the one that National Commissioner answered. When the National Commissioner answers, he says police were driving. They were driving on the road, coming from work, going to work. And those people out there who think that police sleep at 5 after they knock out or after they knock off, it is simply not like that. Those who think that police sleep at 7 or at 9, it is simply not like that, apart from shifts. They go and do homework. They go and do a lot of homework, analyzing what they would have experienced or gone through during the day. That's one part, but they were on the road. That is what the National Commissioner said, which means that they were at work. Now, they get pushed outside the road. They get pushed off the road. Can you just imagine how these criminals are daring now? Really, really daring. Really, how do you push a police officer out of the road? Unprovoked. And they push. And they're in 3 cars. Perhaps this is what made them bold. Imagining that they are somewhere else other than being in South Africa. Push police. And police then allow themselves out, and they get ready because all of a sudden there's a threat. Because there was declaration of war against police. And they start shooting at police, as National Commissioner is saying, directly inviting police to react. And police reacted. And we have repeatedly said, and we are saying now, that police have duty to protect themselves using firearms that they carry at any given moment. As soon as they realize that they are under threat, their own lives are under threat, they must act. They must act. And we always prefer that they act first, as soon as they detect or feel the threat. And they must react such that they use ultimate force, because their own lives are under threat. When they do that successfully, they protect lives, not only themselves, but of the people, all of us, because we depend on them. We depend on each one of them for our own protection, for our own safety. Those police who haven't met them, those who are involved there, first, they would require counseling. I'm sure National Commissioner will deal with that. Just the trauma of being pushed out of the road and then experiencing guns aimed at them, and then they start reacting. They need counseling. But they also need counseling from their own action, the way they reacted. And they need our support, not only as a management, as a ministry. They need all our support. And we should be finding our way to the Eastern Cape, just to congratulate them, because they did well. They did what police are expected to do in such circumstances. We then send a message once more. Don't dare police. And in that instance, not even provoked in any way. After all, police are law enforcement. They don't provoke anyone. They just work, and they are lawful in their actions. And so the last thing that we get very, very concerned about is who was there. There are 7 people who were involved there. We don't know yet who they are, but we are getting feedback from the community that there was one of the people among them who communities were very worried about. Extremely worried about, because they were afraid of this person. Were told by communities themselves, by society, via WhatsApps, via what, that one of the people there, we were very afraid of him. And they are saying we're relieved, which means well done to police. Because when people say they are afraid, so many people feel afraid of one individual. It's a clear invitation that their safety is compromised. It means that they are not safe, and it's an invitation in terms of Section 205, that police must act in line with the Constitution. And they acted in this instance. Not only was he causing, wherever he comes from, and I see somebody is explaining to us section what, somewhere in the Western Cape. To us, that's not important. What is important is that we have complied with a section in the Constitution to bring safety to people who are afraid of this individual. Now, society must tell us who else are they afraid of. We will react. We will respond. And we will respond in a rush. National Commissioner and Police Management, they have a jet. They are able to move with speed to wherever they are required. They have vehicles. And we are going to make sure that we push to the best of our ability ourselves, that wherever we are called, wherever security and safety of the people of South Africa is compromised, and people say, hey, we're afraid of so and so in that particular small area, that is where South African police belong. That's where they must be. I wanted to emphasize that. Then people can tell us another person they are afraid of, another person they want police to act on. We want to assure you we will respond. We will hear your cries and your invitation to such circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I have 3 questions from social media. I just want to check, are we... Okay, we've got 2 last hands. I'm taking the last round of questions, ladies and gentlemen. I have 2 hands from the floor. After that, I'm going to take the social media questions, and thereafter we're going to close the questions. We can take the first hand.
Minister, 2 of the 7 contact crimes experienced an increase in this. Sorry. 2 of the 7 contact crimes experienced an increase. What do you attribute that to, especially the decreases in all the other contact crimes? And also on the issue of police budget, would an increased budget, how far would an increased budget go in terms of ensuring that you reduce, especially like the murders, as it has been highlighted that about 75 of the murders occur daily? Thank you.
We've got another question, Minister. Pule?
Minister, just this question here, which has been a rather thorny issue. The Trump administration says that the South African government is allowing violent attacks against Afrikaner farming communities. Now, I know you mentioned about the crimes that are taking place in terms of stock theft, amongst others, in the rural areas and in the villages as well. But is this true that farmers are being targeted? And then lastly, on the disbandment of the task team investigating political killings in KZN, firstly, why was the task team not better equipped instead of being disbanded as political parties prepare for the local government elections in 2026? Thank you.
Okay, before we get the responses, I'd just like to read the last 3 questions that we have. The first question is from Arthur, Hot FM in Cape Town. A question to the SAPS management. Can you confirm if the management is in a process to devolve the process of destroying guns from national to provinces? And do you have a time frame for that? So the process of destroying guns, the firearms, the process that we had yesterday, is there a process to devolve that power from national to provinces? And if so, is there a time frame for that? The second question we have, devolving the powers of destroying firearms from national to provinces. The second question, Minister, from Alex Mishley again. Are you confident in the accuracy of these statistics? The reason she gives for the question, in October last year, the AGSA highlighted inaccuracies in police crime data due to poor record keeping and case docket management. What has been done to solve this issue? Particularly, this makes it difficult to develop effective crime prevention strategies and allocate resources appropriately. Then the last question. It's directed to the Provincial Commissioner of Gauteng from Bianca, Media Corp SA. What are the reasons behind the surge in murder cases in Orange Farm, and what mitigating factors are being implemented? Notably, this police station recorded the highest number in murder cases with a 91.7% rise. So those are the questions that we have. Major General Mchunu, can we have a response to the accuracy?
The accuracy of the crime statistics. The one thing that surprises me in all these years that we've been publishing crime statistics is that this question only gets asked when the statistics are on the decline. So I don't know, do they suddenly become unreliable because they are going down, or there's something, but the question is always when the crimes are going down, then the authenticity is called into question. But I'm not going to go into why people think that way. But what I can say is that the findings that were made by the Auditor General related mostly to the subset of the statistics, especially relating to crimes against women and children. Now, these statistics that we are reporting on the 17 community reported crimes, and the ones that we are reporting on the crimes against women and children, they are extracted from 2 different systems. Now, the one that we are using for the 17 community reported crimes is the SAPS6, and it mostly has to do with crime administration or the dockets and all those things. That is where all the crimes are recorded, etc. Now, because people want more information out of the statistics, they ask about information relating to crimes against women and children. Now, you have to come up with a different system. Now, when you bring that system into place, you have to start recording over and above other things over the crime. You have to now start recording the age. You have to record the sex. You have to record all these other variables. And let me tell you, the more you analyze when you go down, the more your estimates become inconsistent. And that is the problem that emanates from the issue of the data set on crimes against women and children. As an example, If you look at Status A, when they publish the mid-year population estimates, because they understand that the more you devolve the statistics to the CAS block, or not CAS block, to an EA area, it becomes difficult for you to be able to produce stable estimates. That's why they would only give you the estimates from the census based on the mid-year population estimates, but only cover up to the provincial level. Because the further you go down, your estimates become unstable. Similar with the case of the statistics when you go down to the level of crimes against women and children. Now you bring other variables like your sex, your age, etc. And in some instances, the mother would go and report the rape on behalf of the child. But the information that will be captured will be that of the mother and not of the child. Now, when the AGASA comes in, he would say, but the victim, you say crimes against women and children, but actually here the victim was the mother. Because the child cannot... Sorry? I can't hear you, but it's fine. So, that is the problem of analysis paralysis. The more you go down, the more your estimates become unstable. But when you generalize, you can't say this, you can't call into question the accuracy of the statistics. It's but one portion, which, like I indicated, is from a different system. The whole of the statistics, I can guarantee you that they are accurate. And their accuracy is not by design, it's by design, because we work hand in hand with Status A. And I can safely say that I think the SAPS is one of the less than 5 departments which has had their statistics declared as official statistics by the Statistician General, using an objective tool which is called the South African Statistical Quality Assessment Framework, which has over around 196 indicators and 9 quality dimensions. These quality dimensions is your prerequisite of quality, methodological soundness, accuracy, comparability, integrity, interpretability, relevance, timeliness, and accessibility. And on the timeliness issue, that's why we always publish the statistics within 8 weeks after the end of the reference period to comply with the timeliness issue in line with the UNODC prescripts of official statistics. So, on the issue of accuracy of statistics, we are complying with all the dimensions of quality in line with the SASCAF. We are compliant with all the 9 dimensions of quality. And when the DCAT team comprised of Status A and SAPS sit together, they use an objective measure, as I've indicated, the SASCAF. Now, there are 4 outcomes that can happen. Either your statistics can be declared as questionable, poor quality, good quality statistics, or official stats. The SAPS, as I've indicated, is one of the less than 5 departments that have achieved that status. So I don't have a problem with the issue of the quality of statistics. Thank you.
Thanks. On the issue of the 2 contact crimes that have increased, yes, we acknowledge and we agree that assault GPH and assault common have increased. We are doing our best to get it down. But of course, that crime, those 2 crimes just indicate the social fabric that we are living in. It's not easy crimes to reduce because they happen where people are together, be it homes, be it at drinking places, but they still maintain a steady increase. So we doing our best to get them to decline, but we should be working together with the community, assisting us to make these two crimes to go down. But yeah, indeed, we as police, we tried our best. This is where we are. We'll still put measures in place to make sure that the crime decreases. So we definitely urge the community and everybody, including you, the media, to work with us. That when crime increases, it is fair, we leave it to you and you are saying, police, you are failing us, you are not working. But it looks like when it goes down, then we should find other reasons why it is going down. But as we are your servant, we'll continue doing that work all the time. The process of devolving destruction of guns to provinces, we are currently have this process centralized. Well, I have not received any request for a province to devolve that, to requesting that the process be devolved. But currently, we have centralized it for purposes of making sure that control and management and auditing processes are done properly. If there is somebody that would want it devolved, you can put in a request, we'll consider it. I don't say we will grant it, but we'll consider it. I think those are the areas that I wanted to respond on. Thanks.
Just in addition to what the report says, as responded to by Skukun on accuracy, it would have been better, and with a lot of respect, if the person who was posing a question accompanied that with their own statistics and so on, because it may be that you are walking somewhere and a person says, "Are you Minister Mchunu?" Sometimes you would sit and say, how do I answer that question? Because this person, so you need to confirm, yes, I'm Minister Mchunu. The next question may be, how do you know? So we say this is the statistics that we have, gleaned from information, gleaned from objective data. And then we'll ask a question without necessarily outside the right to ask questions, but it looks like there is an element of doubt. Now, anyone who has an element or a feeling or a perception mustn't substantiate. Mustn't, you have duty to substantiate and to quiz us with something substantiated so that we are on our toes on that matter. Not that we're on our toes, but we have confidence in these stats, and we have arguments why we have confidence in those as he has given. Second question, somebody asked me a question about what Trump says about this. From as far as I have seen President Trump of the United States talking, he didn't speak from any text and from it didn't speak from any statistics, and he didn't make his statements after contacting any authority in South Africa as far as that information is concerned. And perhaps accuracy can be posed to him rather than to us on statistics. Our stats, which is based on figures that we have, and we are South Africans, and we are speaking on behalf of the South African government, and was speaking to South Africans based on scientific information that we have, which he didn't have and was not seen by anyone basing his arguments on when he spoke. It says farm dwellers, 5 murders, employee 4, farmer 1. And I'm going to come back to say what is it that we need to do going forward to give meaning to what we're saying. But farmer, which I suppose is what he would have been referring to, 1. There's 1. There's 1. We don't know where the other farmers he may be referring to are. Where is that based? We don't have. We don't have. We don't see. Security 1 and not specified 1. Now we ourselves are looking at, when you look at farms, you look at a farm, and you look at murders. Yes, there's this breakdown, but I think more attachment should be made on how many 12 people killed on farms. But these farms also must be looked at broadly. What is a farm? What's not a farm? Do you say immediately you step out of tar road, out of town, city, and so on, small holdings and all of that, to bring them in here and so on? So we are just giving ordinary information the way we have been doing in the past, and we will be discussing this and looking at, because when you say farmer 1, we know what we mean, but it could mean something else out there, and we need to qualify it for people and so on. So we don't know whether President Trump may be ahead of us to say a farm dweller is also a farmer, and they may be also concerned about that. Employee, because he's also working on a farm, he may also be including that. Security is also, and so on. So he may be concerned about that. We will have to look at that going forward. But I'm just saying there may be different meanings depending on where you are and what you mean. We'll deal with that. But so far, these are the stats. This is what we mean by these stats. And we are yet to see any authoritative figures and information coming from the United States and the president thereof. Now, third question, why do you disband the political killings unit instead of beefing it up? Look, they are just for the convenience of responding to who is questioning or posing the question. There are 3 phases of killings historically in KZN in particular. We have heard what I would regard as political killings during the 80s, when the apartheid government was actually planning, funding, and aiding actively the targeting of people who the apartheid regime didn't want to see. And they made them targets for murder. And they put resources to that effect. And it went on, particularly reaching the top in the 80s. After the unbanning in 1990, then took a different form. It took a different form, where they held a little bit back, but they were still in power. And they started operating clandestinely via some of their agents, more than they had done in the 80s. They were bolder, more open in the 80s. They were much more after 1990, up to December 1996. That's when they started limiting themselves between 90 and 1996 to certain specific individuals through whom they were now channeling their resources and so on. After 1996, December, then we saw a lull on what you would have termed political killings in both phases. Now, after 2010, going to 2015, 16, those were murders. Those were murders. By and large, not having anything more than a councillor being killed as of really based on murder, based on corruption, based on wanting this person killed so that I become a councillor, or so that I get access to a tender, so that I get this and that and so on. So it took a different form. I'm just explaining the phases. So you entered a different phase that had not been there. In some cases, intra-political. In some cases, maybe inter. But where are we now? We're at a different phase, even from that one on in the 2016, 17, and so on, where we have to face the reality that we're dealing with murders here. Whether they are motivated by corruption or whatever, is murder. And we in SAPS are saying we need to reorganize ourselves such that all the resources are optimally utilized. One example I could make: would it make sense to say the intervention units that we have, that are deployed throughout the country, need to be optimized, need to be more resourced, there needs to be more training. If you look at the work that has been done in the Eastern Cape in the recent months, a community, especially in OR, that was really being, half of Mthatha, if not 3/4, owned by people unlawfully, people going around extorting openly and murdering openly. There are not less than 10 people who have been dealt with, either arrest or neutralized in the last few months in around OR. And those people are complaining that they are still experiencing high rate of murder. What would you do? You would want to optimize the people who are dealing with this, strengthen those who are already there, who have already seen success, and who have already seen success through them. You may want to look at that in that particular way, than having a multiplicity of units, which was not wrong. There was nothing wrong, because you act according to what is happening out there yourself. Then you respond. But if the situation changes, you may need to adjust and then look at that. We're in a period where we think we need to optimize. We need to look at this and that unit. This is what we'll be doing on the 27th, to say that unit in that area, that unit, we are better placed, we are better positioned to deal with the nature of criminality that we are seeing out there, and you start strengthening. So it's not a question of doing this instead of this. It's a question of more looking at reality, at conditions on the ground as they prevail to you, and then you act in a particular way. We will look even at what is this? anti-gang unit. One of the things we've said in the past is to say, shouldn't we pass a law against gang? Because so far we say we have anti-gang unit, we have gangs. If you go to a police station, a police commander will tell you, station commander will tell you, here there are 7 gangs that are operating. There's this gang, there's that gang. That must ministry listen and national commissioner listen to a station commander telling you about, because these gangs, they're all criminals. They were established for criminality in the first place. Why must you study them and know them, who leads that one, and instead of saying, you establish a gang, you try to join a gang, underground or whatever, you break the law. In the first place, before we even study who belongs to what, who is active in what, and so on. So we're looking at that. That is responding to actual conditions that are prevailing on an ongoing basis. Even the people who are extorting, they are gangs. We have learned. If you found them in a kumbi, there are 9 of them, each one carrying a gun. It means that they are acting as a gang. So an extorter is not just an individual walking around and extorting. They are acting in a gang-like fashion. Similarly, in KZN, Zinkabi, those Izinkabi are gangs. They are owned by somebody who recruits them and train them and equip them. So you may need to think about making a law that outlaws all of them in the first place, and start moving against them from that particular base and going forward. So I'm saying why, the reason, look at conditions that are facing you, look at challenges as they are, and then adjust accordingly. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to